finally talk about The Remains of Edith Finch.
What remains?
What's eating
The
Edith
Remains.
Finch?
Oh shoot!
However
it's
much-
like way darker.
However much of
It's
Edith
pretty
Finch
dark
is left.
anyway.
I think what ultimately sets this game apart for me from those other from other storytelling games is the fact that in so many of those games, the player is sort of it plays a passive role in the sense like even though you're moving around and like poking around and digging stuff up, you're reading or you're listening to dialogue or things like that. And what I think really sets Edith Finch apart is the way that like the player is really drawn in and made an active participant in these stories. So
Yes.
It's not just you reading a note and piecing together what happened 20 years ago or whatever. You read the first sentence of it and then you are playing what happened 20 years ago. And it's not always just like, oh, well, here's a room from 20 years ago, wander around in it. Like there are like little twists on gameplay and things like that I don't want to spoil too much.
No, I
but,
definitely
like,
don't either. The core of it is you're a young lady who's taking a second look at her childhood home and piecing together her family history in a really fun and creative way.
Right. And I don't think that it's too, I mean, I want to sell the premise a little bit, and I
Sure.
think this is out there before. The idea is that Edith Finch is the last Finch in this family that has sort of had a string of misfortunes over the last several generations. So pretty much every member of her family has died under sort of bizarre circumstances.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately what the structure of the game is sort of like a short story anthology where every story ends in the death of a Finch. So you are going through and they're not all just like old folks either. I mean like some of them die as children, some of them die as adults, etc. So
Yeah, absolutely. Like the easy comparison is Gone Home.
So
Go ahead.
oh
Elise.
no, so it's not that they all die premature deaths. It's that they die in unfortunate ways. Is that or like accidental deaths?
I don't want to get too
You
far
just spoil it for me before I play it.
too far into that stuff.
Okay.
I guess
I
what I'd
was just
say
curious.
is like it's not like
What makes them cursed if they're just
yeah, I would say that they are not typical deaths.
I'm trying to figure out, Joe, I don't have the best comparison. How would you describe the tone of this game? It's like, the best I could come up with, like, Lemony Snicket. Like, how would you describe the overall tone and vibe? Because it has a distinct flavor that's so different
Yeah.
from other games out there.
Man, I mean, it's weird because it's almost got a sort of like childish storybook look to it. Like the house is very like improbable in its architecture
Seussian,
and things
yeah.
like that. But it's also just so sad.
Yep.
Like because, the game doesn't try to laugh off all of these deaths. I mean, like there's just this sort of like tragedy hanging over everything you're doing also. So I don't know if there is a really good analog for it.
You say tragedy, just maybe I'm really morbid. There is kind of a...
like
There's
whimsical.
almost whimsical tragedy. Is that there's something a little bit like
That sounds
ironic
very
or
Lemony Snicket.
something kind of
Yeah.
cheeky about some of these situations.
Maybe
Like
I don't know.
black humor.
Yeah,
almost?
yeah. I would go so far as that. Joe doesn't seem to be agreeing.
Well, sometimes it's just like in general, my when I look back on my experience of the game, levity is not one of the first words that comes to mind.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's like it has. It's not like it's just super sad all the time and
No,
trying to bring
no.
you down. Like it does have some moments of lightness, but like overall, I just think that the tone is more of a sort of like quiet whimsy, maybe.
Maybe it's
Yes.
like morbid but intriguing.
Sure,
Yeah.
let's go with that.
That's
So-
fair.
It's so strange to play this game and then think back on games like Gone Home. All credit to Gone Home. I think it's a really important game. But this game is just so jam-packed with detail, and you can't pick up objects and rotate them around like you can in Gone Home, some other games like this. But still, this house is cluttered, and you can spend so much time just looking at each room. There's so many details in this home, even though to advance the plot, it is one glowing thing that you go towards, and then you're told the next bit of story. But it's told in a very, I don't know, entertaining way where it's like motion graphics, like the text is appearing on different objects around, kind of leading you through the story. Dan, you seem to be snickering.
I'm not.
Lemony snickering over
No,
there.
I just think you're describing it in this interesting way to me.
Here's what I want to say about this game. I think, all right, the WS terminology might be seen as a negative thing in some people's mind, and they might say, like, I even look back on Gone Home for my own playthrough and just think, I think it's a really interesting game. I don't know if I would necessarily consider it fun, but this game, I had so much fun going through it. There are moments, there's one moment in particular where I literally was like, yes. Yes, this is so good. It is entertaining to play through this and learn the histories and backstories of these characters in a way that I haven't seen from this genre before.
Yeah, I think part of what that is it puts in front of you, like, it keeps you excited to keep moving forward.
Yes.
So it's like more than just like, wow, I'm excited to get to the next room so I learn more of this story. It's like, I am excited to get to the next room so I find out what sort of like clever twist on gameplay people have had. So like, I'll talk about the very first. I don't think you should.
I don't know.
We have there's a video of it up on our site.
Yeah. Dantac seems to be
I want to play it.
I think I leave it clean.
Okay.
It's creative.
Here's what I'll say is that as Edith Finch, you are moving around in first person in a very sort of familiar way, like first person looking around, digging through stuff. But not every sequence that you go through follows those same mechanics. So that's part of what propels you forward is the idea of like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen next. Or in cases where it's like you maybe hear about a family member a few times in previous stories, so you're like, oh, gee, I wonder like what actually happened to that person.
How did that person get so messed up?
Yeah.
And, oh, good God.
And then you're like, oh, wow, okay. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just really smart. I mean, the amount of detail in the home, I think, is great. The environments are great. The game looks fantastic. But something so smart they do is on the pause screen, it has the entire family tree. So many times while I was playing it, they would mention this character and be like, who is this again? You can pause it, just have the easy cheat sheet. Doesn't spoil anything, but just reinforces exactly how this thing structures.
If you've ever read like the Game of Thrones books, it's like being able to flip in the back and like, okay, wait a minute. Who was whose dad in House Targaryen? You know, like it's a smaller version of that. One thing I wanted to bring up about like the house and the variety too is like, again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm giving Gone Home a bad time because it was definitely like a pivotal game, like that kind of established this as a viable genre now, right? But one thing about those games is they have a sense of like you get into a room and it's like, okay, here's a couch that you've kind of seen before, here's a table that you've kind of seen before. Like the rooms kind of use the same assets even if they're laid out in different ways. And that's one thing I really appreciated about Edith Finch is that it seems like every room is sort of the attention to detail in the kinds of things that are in that room, in the furniture, in the objects, in the layout, like convey a story and are unique in a way that you often don't see in these kinds.
It's like a Persona 5 dungeon, each room. You know, maybe
like
not necessarily.
Very, like room to room, it's very personally stylized.
Yeah. That the objects in the room kind of augment the story.
Kind of their own environmental storytelling to represent those characters.
Yeah, I guess I'd go with what I said. Like I think it's augmenting more than anything. It's not like you walk around the room and you get the full picture of it, but
a piece.
Yeah, but the things in combination work well together.
I like the Joe Juba sentence. I'd go with what I said.
I mean, like I don't want to misrepresent.
Okay, I see how it is.
Totally.
I think I'm right.
I think there's
you played it. I've only played small bits.
In the last 3 years, I feel like there have been a healthy amount of these games in this vein, and I don't want this one to slip by. I think if you enjoy a short story-focused experience, like it's a couple hours long, realistically. Yeah, definitely check it out. It's on PS4 and Steam. Is that it?
That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's also, I mean, if you played and enjoyed the Unfinished Swan, which is Giant Sparrow's previous game, there's a little Easter egg in there for you too.
A subtle nod, but really, really awesome. One of my favorite experiences so far this year, for sure.
I love it.
Thank you so much for watching this excerpt from the Game Informer Show podcast. You can click right here if you want to subscribe and listen to the audio version of the full show. Full episodes air every Thursday, and they feature Game Informer editors sitting around talking about the biggest reviews, previews. We talk about exclusive impressions of Game Informer's cover stories. We have long-form developer interviews, everything that's great in gaming. So every Thursday, be sure to check it out.